Does owning more things truly make us happier? This question often lingers in the corners of our minds, yet we seldom pause to ponder deeply on its profound implications. Our story begins with a man who was a living embodiment of this very question. Once upon a time, he was the king of his own concrete castle, a grand mansion that stood as a testament to his wealth and status. Every room was filled with objects that screamed luxury, from the Italian leather sofas in the living room to the gold-plated faucets in the bathrooms. The driveway boasted a collection of sleek, high-powered vehicles, each one a symbol of his success. His closets were filled to the brim with designer clothes, 1,000 different ways to dress up a single day. His fingers danced on the latest gadgets, a never-ending parade of newness that promised to keep him at the forefront of technology. Yet, with every new purchase, the thrill was fleeting, replaced all too swiftly by the hunger for the next big thing. It was a cycle, a treadmill that kept him running, always chasing after the newest, the best, the most luxurious. And as he sat in his mansion, surrounded by all these material possessions, a sense of emptiness gnawed at him. He had everything money could buy, yet he felt a void, a dissatisfaction that no purchase could alleviate. The glittering objects that filled his home were supposed to bring him joy, yet they only served to remind him of the hollowness of his existence. His life was a paradox, a glittering cage of opulence that promised freedom and happiness, but delivered nothing more than a gilded prison. The things he owned instead of serving him had become his masters. They dictated his time, his energy, his thoughts. They owned him, not the other way round. Yet amidst the glitter and glamour, he felt trapped, devoid of real happiness. It was a realization that would set the stage for a transformation, a journey from the excess of materialism to the liberating embrace of minimalism. But that's a story for another scene. Change, they say, often comes when we least expect it. Our protagonist, a man who had everything, was about to be swept into an unforeseen storm. His life was a whirlwind of acquisitions, a ceaseless chase for the next big thing. But one day, his world was jolted to a halt. A routine doctor's visit revealed a heart condition, a ticking time bomb, threatening to cut his story short. The man who had everything was suddenly staring at the possibility of having no tomorrow. In the face of mortality, the glittering cage he had built around himself seemed meaningless. His palace of possessions felt cold and impersonal. The man who was once consumed by materialism now found himself yearning for something more, something genuine, something real. Around that time, he crossed paths with an old woman. She radiated a warmth that was unfamiliar yet comforting. Her home was modest, her possessions few, but her eyes sparkled with a joy he had never seen before. She lived a simple life, devoid of excess, yet she was content. He was intrigued by her serenity, her satisfaction with so little. It was a stark contrast to his own life, cluttered with material possessions but devoid of genuine happiness. This encounter stirred something within him. A seed of realization was planted. He started questioning his choices, his priorities. The man who once measured his success by the number of zeros in his bank account now found himself pondering about the true meaning of wealth. Was it the towering mansion he owned or the peace of mind he lacked? Was it the luxury car parked in his driveway or the simple joy of a walk in the park? Was it the designer clothes in his closet or the comfort of a warm hug? Was it the expensive watch on his wrist or the priceless moments he had missed? His life, he realized, was a paradox. He had everything, yet he had nothing. His heart was full of possessions, but empty of fulfillment. He was surrounded by luxury, but starved of joy. It was in this moment that he realized he was not living, but merely existing. The path to minimalism is not a journey with a destination, but a journey in itself. Our protagonist had everything one could dream of, and yet he felt an emptiness gnawing at his heart. He decided to step off the hamster wheel of materialism and onto the path less traveled, the path to minimalism. He began by decluttering his life, one room at a time. The first few steps were the hardest. Each item he held carried a memory, a sentiment. The resistance was not just from the world outside, but also from within. He battled the voice in his head that screamed, "What if you need it later?" But he knew that he was not discarding things, he was discarding the fear of not having enough. His journey was met with skepticism and resistance. His friends and peers were baffled. "Why let go of all these comforts?" they asked. But he was resolute. He had tasted the bitter nectar of excess and now sought the sweet simplicity of less. The transition was not easy. There were days filled with doubt and nights riddled with regret. But with every item he let go, he felt a little lighter, a little freer. He was no longer defined by his possessions, but by his values, his passions, his dreams. His journey wasn't about subtraction, it was about addition, adding value, adding purpose, adding life to his days. He discovered that the more he let go, the more he had. His possessions no longer possessed him. He was no longer a slave to his things, but a master of his freedom. He realized that minimalism was not about having less, but about making room for more time, more experiences, more peace. It was about going back to the basics, to the essence of life, to what truly mattered. And so, with a heart full of courage and a soul yearning for freedom, he began to shed his material skin piece by piece. Simplicity, it turns out, wasn't about having less. It was about making room for more. In the embrace of minimalism, our protagonist found a life reshaped by tranquility and contentment. The once cluttered spaces of his existence were now swept clean, replaced with a serene expanse that mirrored the peace within him. The emptiness wasn't a void, but a canvas, waiting to be filled with meaningful experiences. He found a profound satisfaction in the ordinary, the everyday. The rising sun held an allure it never had before, its rays not just light but a reminder of the warmth of life. The rustling leaves sang a symphony to his ears, a testament to the world's natural rhythm. In the simplicity of nature, he found a mirror to his own existence. His relationships, stripped of the superficiality of materialism, deepened. Conversations were no longer centered on possessions, but on ideas, dreams, and shared experiences. His interactions were rich with authenticity, fostering connections that were not just deep, but also lasting. He discovered that real joy was not in the grandeur of possessions, but in the grandeur of moments. A shared laugh, a heartfelt conversation, a quiet moment of introspection, these became his treasures. His life was no longer measured by what he owned, but by what he experienced. And in his experiences, he found a wealth that could not be quantified. Moments of genuine happiness, of love, of peace, these were his riches. He traded gold for laughter, diamonds for love, and in this trade, he found himself the richest man in the world. Material possessions, he realized, were just that, material. They were transient, fleeting, but the experiences, the relationships, the joy he found in simplicity, these were timeless. These were his true possessions, his true wealth. In the quiet, he found his voice. In the simple, he found his joy. In the ordinary, he found his extraordinary. And in the material's absence, he found an abundance of the immaterial. In letting go of the material, he found an abundance of the immaterial. What does it mean to be truly rich? This question, once a mystery to our protagonist, now held a profound answer. His journey wasn't an overnight transformation, but a gradual awakening to the realization that happiness wasn't found in material possessions, but in the simplicity and richness of life itself. He traded the glittering cage of materialism for the boundless sky of minimalism, finding in its vastness a sense of peace and contentment that eluded him in his previous life. His story is a testament to the fact that the true measure of wealth is not in the abundance of your possessions, but in the depth of your contentment. He learned that the most important things in life aren't things at all. They are the experiences we have, the relationships we nurture, the love we give and receive. In essence, he found his wealth not in his bank account, but in the quality of his life and relationships. True wealth, he discovered, was not in his bank account, but in his heart.